did I talk to you about your assignment already or not yet? Left.
For exam, not yet, teacher.
No. For the assignments. I think yes, right? We are going to present by 20th of December, right? The first group.
Yeah, sure. You told us to do about policy trade instrument, sure.
Okay, very good then. And don't forget that next week we are going to have the midterm test.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, do you have any questions from last week?
So what's the form of exam? What type of question will be appearing?
Sorry, there will be two type of questions going to be happening during the exams. There will be the exercises, small exercises, and the comprehensive questions. Okay.
Teacher, what kind of exercise, teacher?
For example, calculating the opportunity cost, something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, how many comprehensive questions?
Sorry, can you come again, please?
How many comprehensive questions?
Currently, I'm not quite sure yet, but the maximum is 5. The minimum is 3. Okay. So let's say from 3 to 5. Okay. Okay. So here we go. We start our class with the new modules. For this sessions or for this week, we are going to look at for the growth and development module. Okay. Growth and development with international trade modules. I think we already finished with all the international trade series that we have discovered together. So now we move to growth and development with the international trade. Okay, so let's see the meaning of in terms of growth and development. Economic growth, I think we learned this already in the other course, as I remember correctly. I asked you to do the sources or the drivers of economic growth in the Asian member states. So this one we just review what you have learned so far. That is the economic growth. You can define it as the expansion of national ability to produce goods and services over time. Okay. And we will see how can you observe or how can you capture the expansion of nations' ability to produce goods and services. We can capture this expansion by using the shifting of the production possibility frontiers. Okay, so this may change see that this change may be represented by the word expansions of production possibility frontiers. Okay. And also the economic development. This one is defined as the economic growth, and this one is the economic development. Okay, we defined it as is an improvement in society's qualities of life or standard of living. Okay, So these two things are not the same. If you discuss about growth, the scope is just focusing on the abilities of producing things, producing goods and services. Okay, while if you discuss about the development, that is another thing, meaning to say that we need to look at to the improvements. We need to look at to the living standard of the citizens who are, or the people who are living in that country. Okay. And yes, if you ask me, are there any correlation between economic growth and economic development? Yes, of course, there's positive correlation. I believe there's. However, I'm not 100% sure there is a causality between these two variables. Okay, whether when the country has the economic growth, it also generate the economic development or bring the economic development, or when the country having the higher level of economic development will bring economic growth too. So this one is still in the controversy, as I know. If you would like to discover this relationship, you may look at to the textbook written by Taro. He's really famous in terms of economic development. He's the Japanese guy, as I remember correctly. So if you would like to understand further about these two relationships, you can discover further with the Taro, okay, Japanese researchers trying to address the concept of economic development. So this just want you to understand what the difference between economic development and economic growth, okay, we measure differently. And then needs this be the same, see that, so they are not the same. However, growth typically seems to encourage development, like I discussed to you, by providing the ability to satisfy more material needs. For example, like shelter, education, medical care, uh, schools, school is under education, entertainment, something like that. Okay, home appliances. So those are the materials that you can be justified. It's also being illustrating or demonstrating the growth in living standard. Okay, so that is also considered as a development. If you believed in the Adam Smith his theory is also the same. Adam Smith believed that when the people can enjoy higher consumptions, they will realize the higher living standards. And the living standard here can be considered as the development in this sense. Okay, but Adam Smith did not say this one is development, but Adam Smith just said when the people enjoy higher consumptions, people feel more satisfied, the living standard is higher. And after that, people define the improvement of the living standard, that is the development. Okay, so that is the case. So if you look at to the growth, that is the demonstrating of growth. That is the demonstrating of growth. If you look at this, growth occurs through the expansions or improvement in the factors of production. You see that? This is the production possibility frontiers. I believe that you already remember that, right? This one is production possibility frontiers. This is the good X and this one is the good Y. That is describing the nation abilities of producing these two goods, whether they are the services good or they are the good itself, physical goods. Okay. So I think it's very understandable if you look at to the growth here. Balance growth arises when the factors of the production chain such that the ability to produce commodity is not grouped in favor of one commodity over another. See that? So this one is moving to this. This one is in the initial equilibrium, initial conditions, and this one is the next phase of the abilities of the nation ability to produce goods and services. Okay, if we just move, there's no screw. Do you understand the word screws? The screw meaning this way, for example, this one there is no screw because it happens similarly. The screws like this. This one is the production possibility frontiers. And then if there is screw, for example, this one is small, but this one is big. Like this, okay? It's screw to this area, okay? And also it's also possible to screw to this area too, or to go wide too. It's here, for example, this one small and then it become bigger here, okay? Yeah. That is called screws, but in the graph that you have seen, below here there is no screw, okay? So in short, balance growth arises when the factors of the production change so that the ability to produce commodity is not screwed in favor of commodities over others, okay? That is the things. You need to remember here that is the if that is the production possibility frontier growth here, it represents the highest higher output that you can produce in the countries, okay? And normally we discuss about growth here, we refers to the we refer to the real growth, okay? We do not refer to the nominal growth, we refer to the real growth, meaning to say that there is no influences by price, okay? So that is the case. And this is unbalanced. It's also growth, but it is unbalanced. Unbalanced growth arises when the factors of production change so that the ability to produce one commodity is enhanced more the ability to produce the other commodities. You can see this. You can produce Y is also higher, but in very small amounts of the productions, while the X is a little bit higher. You see that is growth also, but it's called unbalanced growth. For example, I think this one already learned in the international trade theory earlier. Some of the country they need to look at to the opportunity cost of producing any particular products. Okay, that's why they need to look at to their skills or their skill or their production specializations. Okay. So this one can be either Y or X, okay? Don't forget. So trade and development. International trade allow each trading countries to consume beyond its domestic ability to produce. So this is the static gain from trade, okay? International trade allow you, okay, a trading country to consume beyond its domestic ability to produce. I think this one we learned since the beginning, meaning to say we learned in the David Ricardo models that the consumption is higher when you allowed your country to do the free trade with another country. So that is the case. So then allowed to do the trading, okay, consumes beyond the domestic ability. So that is the static gain from trade. Static, there's no change. That's very true. And then international trade also offers the potential dynamics that is called growth enhancing gains. The static, like you have seen, that is the consumption, higher consumptions. And for the dynamic is the growth enhancing. May allow a country to explore available economy of scales. Okay, meaning to say that you have a highest specialization when you allowed your country focusing on particular products which you believed you having the comparative advantage in producing that particular products. So it allowed you to enjoy the economy of scale. I think the economy of scale we already discussed many times already. It is referred to a situation or conditions that when you increase your productions and then your average total cost is become lower. Okay. And then it's also again in terms of allowing for a freer transmission of ideas internationally. This one you can discuss about technological change. You can discuss about the standardized practices, policy, the best practices, standardized practices from the company, from the outside world. For example, the trend of one industry might changed because the international company standard has played around in the economy or in that industry, and then you need to catch up to the international standard. That's why it's transport those a lot. Okay, so that is another dynamic gains in terms of doing the international trade. We have the static, which focusing on the increasing of the consumptions, while it also has the dynamics that is having the transmission of ideas. Okay, either technology, cultures, the way of doing things, something like that. Innovations is also the same. So this is the trade and development. Okay, and also we also can stimulate the flows of financial capital that may enhance economic growth too. Flow of financial capitals. I don't know whether have you ever heard the term financial liberalizations? Hello. Have you ever heard the term financial liberalizations?
No, I haven't.
Sorry?
I haven't. Like,
Really?
Sure, is it like government does not interfere with market? Sure.
No, not government interfere in markets, not like that. Financial liberalization refers to how can I say that, the mechanism or the activity which the government, the other country is trying to deregulate, you know the word deregulate, or let's say having less regulation in terms of the capital flow in and flow out. Okay. For example, if you would like to do the cross-border transactions in terms of finance, you may face many regulations needs to be complied with, especially with the central banker. They may require you to do one thing, two things, three things. You need to follow my law. You need to follow my regulation. So those are the barrier for the international capital flows. Okay, flow in and flow out. I mean. That's why it's most of the country trying to figure out whether we have the better way in order to make the capital flow in and flow out better. That's why they introduced the concept of financial liberalizations in this sense, meaning to say that a country are trying to compromise or coordinate from one another when they are doing the trade together, and then some regulation may be released. That's why we call the regulation, meaning to say we are trying to reduce the numbers of regulation in terms of the international transfer or capital flows. That is the sense of the financial liberalization. Okay. And I believe that many empirical studies have proved this already. The financial liberalization, the level of financial liberalization happens. We also can observe the higher or the more active of financial capital flows across the countries. Okay, we compare the level of financial liberalizations and then the flows of financial capital flow in and flow out, and then when it can be flow in flow out easily, I believe that it's also a channel that bring the incentive for investor to do the cross border transactions. So yeah, that is the case. So this one also the same, right? If you look at the international trades, we also there might be the possibility that these tools stimulates the flow of financial capitals. Why? Because like you understand already, it is the incentive for the what I want to say, that is the incentive for for the investors to do the investments if that is easier. And you might also consider about our trade flow in the past. For example, if you do the international trade, you have to do the settlement, right? So if the settlement is very complicated, it's a little bit, let's say that is the constraint for your international trade to be occurred or to be utilized. That is the test. And after stimulating the flow of financial capital, it also can exposes the domestic economy to new commodities, and this may spur sufficient domestic demand to generate a new domestic industry. See that? I think yes, this one is also empirically proved as far as I know. When you opened the border, and then some of the new commodity will come into our economy, and then when it is long enough that domestic consumptions realize this importance realize the importance of these products, and then there might be the domestic demand for such products, and then the industry up. Let me give you, for example, in Cambodia context. Yeah, let's look at the coffee industry. That is very obvious for you, also very real for you. In the past, I don't think that we have a small coffee like nowadays. We just have only the major brands, international brand coffee, or started to invest in Cambodia. Even though we don't have Starbucks in the past, but we have Glow Origin, we have Cold Star, we have the tea leaf. Sorry, what can we call this? Yeah, tea leaf, and I don't know. I forgot that. It is very famous. Sorry.
Coffee bean, sir.
Yeah, coffee beans also the famous one. And then after that, you notice, right? Now the domestic demand for the coffee consumption is very high. That's why there's industry also building up in our economies in the last 5 years. So more correctly, there are many small brands inside small domestic brand inside Cambodia. Uh, yeah, that's the case. Okay, yes. Um, so far so good. Maybe I can post it 2 minutes for you, and then you may, if you have any questions, just let me know. Okay.
Sir, what is antitrust activities?
Sorry.
In the third pointer,
Oh, yeah.
reduce the need for domestic antitrust activity.
Yeah. Okay. We are going to move to this one. Yeah, these are the two things that we realized about the dynamic gain from the international trade. And the last, I think the next one is not the last one. We will look at some of this. The next one is the constraint domestic monopoly power. This constraint reduces the need for domestic antitrust activity and spur greater domestic efficiency. The property rights lower. I mean, intellectual property rights lower. For example, like the writers of like an author, like the entertainer or the singer, when the songwriters, so those can't need to be prevented, right? In terms of the copyright, right?
Okay, sir.
And then,
Understand, sir.
yeah, and then in Cambodia, we also trying to do this constrain domestic monopoly power. And then these constraints due to the need for domestic antitrust law activities and spurs greater domestic efficiency, meaning to say that those are the very unique industry, and sometimes it can become the monopoly powers. And after that, we need to do the antitrust activity in order to cut down, not to cut down, to reduce the power of monopolists in terms of influencing to the industries. That's why if we have the international trades, we don't need to have such kind of activity. We just let create competitors for the monopolist. So the monopolist gonna be facing the international competitors, so they cannot enjoy the monopoly power anymore. Okay. This one is also still, how can I say this? This one is still, some country, they also play with this. Why I say play with this? Because they still have, we call it as the exclusive rights. Exclusive rights sometimes is also it's also offers a lot of the government revenue in term of using instruments. However, it is not healthy for the economies as a whole. That is the case. Okay, that's why when you allow this, meaning to say that you are creating the competitors for your monopolist, and then it will reduce the monopolist power through the others international company. Okay. We also have several issues in terms of trade and development in this sense. Okay, these are the issue. The first one is term of trade effects. The second one is the emerging rising growth, and the third one is export instabilities. And lastly is about the, not lastly, the fourth one is the import substitutions and versus the export promotion policy. So these are the issue that we are facing, not we are, the country can face if you are trying to trigger the international trade transactions. Okay, yeah, and yeah. This one is the explanations to be more precise in term of trade effects. So how this gonna be worked? You can look at this. The term of trade is the ratios of price of a country export to the price of its import. Okay, it's very clearly for you here. You just calculating the ratio between the price of the country exports to the price of its import, and then you will realize it's our trade. And then there are several type of term of trade. You can look at your commodities or net barter term of trade. This one is just a sample for you. If this is Px is the price index of export and Py is the price index of import, the commodity term of trade is N equals to Px over Pi times 100. Okay. The index meaning to say that we are trying to boost all the commodity that you are exporting together, and then you generate the index. Similar thing for the import products, import goods and services. You're just pulling all the imported products, goods and services together, and then you develop the index of those imported commodities or the products, and then you can calculate the term of trade by using the commodities exportation and importation. And if the n is equal to 120, for example, then between the base and the currently export price rose 20% relative to the import prices. You see that? Does it make sense to you? If that is n here, that is the term of trade based on the commodity. If that is equal to 120, meaning to say that the export is higher than the current expectation is higher than the previous one by 20%, increased by 20% relative to the imported prices. Understand? Does it make sense?
Yes, lecturer, I have a question.
Yeah.
Normally, is it good to have a higher terms of trade or a lower terms of trade?
Uh, you need to look at this. Normally, when you are discussing this, most of the cases, the highest better. The highest expectation is the better, because you can have the capital inflow, right? When you have a lot of the imports, meaning to say that the export value is higher than import value. You are flowing your domestic capital outside your country, and then if you are reflecting to the mercantilist concept in the international trade theory, you will realize the mercantilists believe that when a country having a more capital in their country, they are having more power and riches compared to the others. So meaning to say that the mercantile would like to have the highest amount, let's say would like to do any policy to bring a capital inflows to have a wealth, to have a higher capital, so they feel power. Okay, this one is the same. If you have the exportations higher, exportation value higher than importation value, meaning to say that the next of the capital flow is the capital flow in, right? So you can use that capital flow in to boost your to or stimulate your economic growth to other channels that you have learned so far about the economic growth, the sources of the economic growth. Okay, but when you are having the capital flow out, your capital stock is become less, so it's a little bit constrained to use to manage it to realize the growth. That is what I can say right now. Okay, is that clear?
Yes, lecturer, thank you.
Very good things. Are there any questions you want me to address for this? Hello. Hello.
No from me, lecturer, no from me.
Okay, so we can move on then. Yeah. And then we already considered the commodity, or you can call it net barrels term of trade. So now we can also look at the income term of trade. Okay. So if PX is the price index of exports and PY is the price index of imports, and then QX is the nation volumes of export, the income term of trade is I, for example, like that. So you just take the ratio of this, the ratio of export to import, and then you time the quantities of good that you are going to export. So you will realize your income. Okay, so that is if I think this one should be I, not N. Okay, that is our mistake. This one should be I. So if you are the income term of trade is equal to 105, then between the past year and the current years, the commodity ability to import on the export earning increased by 5% from the past year. Okay. The country ability to import based on the export earnings increased by 5% from the past years. Okay, meaning to say that you are trying to compare the past year, means suppose that the past year should be 100. Yeah, So if you calculate your current years and then it become or it equal 105, meaning to say that you are increased by 5% from the past years. Okay, so these are sorry, this is another term of trade that you can realize. So what is the implication of changing NNI? We learned this through two things. One is the commodities, through the commodities. The second one through the income. So what is the implication, or what are the implication of changing NNI? So these are the answer for you. As and falls, a nation must export more in order to purchase the same numbers of import. See that? When your term of trade in terms of commodity falls, a nation must export more in order to purchase the same amount of import, right? Because the numbers of exports is lower than the numbers of import. And as I fall, the national ability to purchase import fall. See that? So both of these changes are very using. So far, so good. And then what happens? What has happened with the term of trades? Prepared sugar. This one is just the name of the author or the researchers. They concluded that the term of trade found between 1938 and 1970s. Term of trade here, like you discussed earlier here, that is the meaning term of trade, okay? That is the ratio of price of country exports to the price of its import. And then we also understand the type of it already. And then, so this one happened, this one conclude that term of trade failed between these 2 years, 1938 and 1970s. And Cartin and Mark Dermot found that primary commodity price, a key developing country exports, fell by 1% per year from these years to that years. 1% is quite high already, okay? Primary commodity price, this one we calculate ends, okay? And then it fell by 1%. And then countering this trend, numerous studies have shown an improvements in eye for developing country. Okay, this one is going down. You understand, because it is reducing. The implication of this is that it is reducing the welfare of the country. So this one also the same. It reducing the welfare of the country, and then people are not stand still. They need to do some more work in order to improve the income for the developing country. Okay, that's why they do the research on this and then bringing them to become better. Okay, thermal trade, so far so good. Okay, the second is the issue for the trade and the development is the immersion growth. The first one is the term of trade, and then we realize that this might be the issue. If you allow to have a trade and then you have the import, let's say you have the commodities, you measure the term of trade by commodities, you measure the term of trade by the income, and then you allowed it, you had a policy to encourage for trade, and after that you're realizing the reusing of the welfare. See that? So that is the issue, and then you need to tackle that issue, okay? But in particular, sorry, in general, it's already gained if you are allowed to have the free trade. However, there's still some of the dynamics effect on the international trade that you are trying to enhance your economic growth. So there's along the way you're also facing some challenges. And the second issue is immeasurizing growth. So what is this? Growth is expected to improve the qualities of life, right? Yeah. This one we do not focus on economic growth, but we focus only on growth. Okay. So it is possible for connection not to hold for a large exporting country. That in this circumstance, either the incentive to participate in international trade or to grow would be undermined. See that? So this phenomenon was dubbed immiserizing growth. That is by this guy, scientist. Yeah. And it is possible that the deterioration in terms of trade will be large enough that a country will grow find itself on a lower indifferent curve. This one is just like you have it, but you have enjoying the lower indifferent curve. Okay. Yeah, connection not to hold for a lot of exporting country. So immiserizing growth is the situation where a nation's term of trade deteriorates so much as a result of growth that the nation was of outer growth than before. I think this one also possible to be happens if you are large exporting country. Is possible. So far so good. You can look at this graph, it also illustrates for you. We have C0, C1. This is the production possibility frontiers, and then this is the general equilibrium in autarky. Yeah. This was also the same. This is the economic growth. You realize the economic growth, and this is the equilibrium, and then this is your consumptions. Okay, patterns. And after that, you realize that that is the PXOPY, that is the term of trade. Growth caused a large enough decline in that welfare is reduced. Okay, yeah. And the third one is the export instability. The significant short-run export earning fluctuations undermine development effort. For example, you can look at this. Planning is extremely difficult. That is one of the reasons. The second is fluctuation increase investment risk, which slow the pace of capital formations. This is just like instability because sometimes you may face some of the challenges in terms of the international IT flows. Okay, that's why the significant short-run export earning fluctuation undermine development effort. We fluctuate a lot, so meaning sometimes you cannot stabilize it. Sometimes can go fast and sometimes can go slow. That's why it costs you the risk in terms of the. If you learn macroeconomic theory well, you will understand the fluctuation cause the risk and how can we measure it. We measure it through the amplitude. Let me give you one example in terms of fluctuation risk. Do you know economic cycle or business cycle? Sorry. I suppose that this one is the long-term trend. The green one is the long-term trend. This is the business or economic cycle, okay? That is the actual trends or the actual economic growth. Actual growth, a real economic growth, or how can I say, HE, okay? This is the time. And this is the economic growth. economic growth here we refer to real economic growth, or you can call it output. It's also measured the same. Okay. So what I'm trying to tell you here is the fluctuation here. You noticed. This is the we are supposing to move to grow with this range with this slope. However, it grow faster, right? And then it going down also lower than the trends. And this one is also becoming higher when the government trying to do the policy. So this one we call amplitude. U and then T and then E. Okay, this is the highest. That is the more course for the for this economy. However, if you have this kind of things, the economy, the course is less. I suppose that I have the same things. This is the trains, and that is like this. If you realize that your output here is very small like this, it's almost like your train. Okay, so do you have the small amplitude here, meaning to say that you have low cost in terms of stabilize your economy, but this one is higher. So this one like is the same. The idea is the same. If you can stabilize your export earning, meaning to say that you are going to plan your development well, you can bring the effects of the development policy properly or effectively. However, if you are running your economy and then it becomes to the fluctuation of your export earnings, so it a little bit cost you some of the risk, and then it might cost you something in terms of those risks. Okay, so that is the export in instabilities that I could talk to you right now. Let me erase this first. Okay. And then why would export earning be unstable? That is not a question come up. This one we discussed when it is unstable, it is core something. So why would the export earning be unstable? So that is the answer. Developing world exports tends to face inelastic international demands. Do you know inelastic demands? I think you should know, right? Inelastic demand meaning like this. There is the demand and then there's the inelastic demand. Meaning to say that the demand curve is very stepped like this. So when the price fluctuates, price fluctuation in this market do not significant change the quantity sold, right? For example, the price change 1% and then the quantity sold is change less than 1%. Because the inelastic demand normally ED that represent the inelastic demand is lower than once. Okay. Lower than one meaning to say that I think you understand how to calculate elasticity demand, right? It is the percentage change. So sorry, it is the percentage change of quantity demanded over the percentage change in price. Okay. So over the percentage change in price. So these are two different things. This one quantity demanded, while this one is in price. Okay, when that is the inelastic demand, the result is lower than one. Lower than one meaning to say that the changes of quantity at the price higher than the changes in quantity demanded. Okay, and then there's the price fluctuation which generate largest movement in the revenue collections. See that? And if you ask me why this one is the become very inelastic, it's very hard to say in one word to finish this, but I can say that because we cannot influence to the international markets. When you are developing world, you just demand for this. You cannot influence to the international markets, and then you are just like you are receiving more influences from the big countries. That's why you cannot make any adjustment on this. That is the case. Your population, your demands, your populations, the people is small, so the demand is small for them, so you cannot influence to the international market. That's why you face this, okay? And then it become a little bit hard for you to stabilize your earnings, okay? Fluctuating. Why would export earning be unstable? That is another reason for you. Uh, Fluctuating environmental conditions like weather, natural disaster, cause more and larger supply shift than in the developed world, where you are exposing to more risk. For example, in Cambodia, we are exporting a lot of the agriculture commodities. In some years, we faced the very bad exportations. We face very bad weather, so our exportation has become weak compared to the other country in the region. So we faced this earning instabilities in our national budget. I think you noticed this too. Normally, the statistic of the agriculture exportations is disseminated by the Ministry of Agriculture, Fishery and Forestry. Yeah. And then what would we respond? We need to have the marketing board. That is the national organizations that buy exist stock during the good years and sell the stock bill during the bad year to stabilize prices. One example of this is the cacao marketing board of Ghana. You might also observe some of the policy in the Asian regions, like the bleaching rights policy in Thailand. It's also playing the same things. Yeah, bleaching rights policy was introduced by Yingluck, as I remember correctly. But actually, it's not from Yingluck. It's from his brother. Sorry, her brothers. Yeah, her brothers regimes, and then there's a policy to stabilize the rice, especially for the jasmine rice in producing Thailand. So they just buy it when that is the good years and stock it, and then when they become the bad year, they just sell it to stabilize the price. And then they have the technology in order to maintain the quality of fragrant rice or jasmine rice during that time. So that is the case. It's happened the same thing in Ghana in this case. That is the cacao. Ghana is the country produce a lot of cacao. Yeah, in the African continent. Okay. And then we also can do the another response by international commodity arrangements. How can we do that? We can do the international organization that intervenes to control the market supply in order to stabilize the price. We can join the international commodity agreement, or we can jump into or join the international commodity agreements, or yeah, I think that this one might be possible to stabilize too. And OPEC is an example of the such an international organizations. You know the word OPEC. I think you understand this already. The word OPEC here. The members of this international organizations have been protected, meaning to say that they would like to stabilize the price of crude oil exporting to the rest of the world. So there are several major countries in that organization, like Qatar, Arab, and something like that. Iraq, Iran, not Iraq, sorry. So they are the country, the members of OPEC, and then they enjoying the privilege in terms of the supplying the crude oil to the international market. Okay. Okay, this one is the import substitutions. Until now, do you have any questions? I think I'm a little bit fast. Do you have any questions? Let me wrap up for you a little bit before we have a small break. What we have learned so far together for these sessions, we have learned the differences between economics and economic growth and economic developments. More or less, you know how to define these two terms and how to capture these two variables. And then you also know how to illustrating the growth, okay, by understanding balance and unbalanced growth. And then we also looking at the relationship between trade and development. And then we have learned about the static gain from trade and the dynamic gain from trade. Static gain from international trade is the increasing of the consumptions. And for the dynamic, we may look at the economy of scale perceptions. We may look at the transmission of IT perceptions, stimulating the financial capital flows. And then we might also look at the bringing new commodity industry in our country. And then the lastly is also reducing the government intervention in terms of the antitrust law. So these are the relationship happening because of relationship traits and development. And after that, we also learn some of the issue between these two variables. Even though we understand that it can bring you some of the gain from these things, but there's also still the challenges or the issue that we need to tackle. And we have finished with thermal trade, which can be measured by the commodity weight or by the income weight. And then we also learned the implication when this thermal trade change. And we also learned about the issue in terms of immersive rising growth. Okay, and the last point here is the important point that we can you should understand fully. And then this is graphically in terms of immersive rising growth. And largely, we also discuss about the export instability and how to respond to this issue too. Okay. Okay. So far so good. Can we have a small break and then we will continue our issue in terms of trade and development. And after that, we will have a small quiz, a 30-minute quiz, to understand how well you understand the modules. And then it also gave me an ideas how to design the midterm test for you for next week. Okay, so that is our plan for today. Any
Teacher, teacher, what form of quiz, teacher?
sorry?
What form of quiz, teacher? Like, do you assign it for the quiz folder, or do we have to do it in Word, or like what form, teacher?
Okay, I will give you some comprehension questions, and then you need to respond to the questions, and then I will capture how well you understand the module that you learned so far, particularly it should cover the international trade theory. Okay. Yep. I will assign you. I will send you the questions, and then you just take your own times and then respond to the questions, and then send back to the Microsoft Teams. Okay, as normal we usually do. Main, is that clear?
Yes, teacher. So what module they will appear on quiz, teacher?
That should be the international trade theory. It comes from the module 1 until module 10. Okay. Module 11, it's starting the policy already, so 1 to 10.
Okay, teacher. Thank you very much, teacher.
Okay, you are welcome. Any more concerns about our second session planned? Okay, so you can have a small break, and then please return back by 7:10, and then I try to finish it until we just have two or three more points to be covered, and then we can have a quiz. Maybe we can start from 7:45 for our quiz. Maybe. Okay, let's see. Okay.
Teacher, so for next week, our midterm will start at 6 p.m., right?
Yes, I would start by 6 because yes, maybe we can. It would be a good idea to start at 6 because there might be some delay for us. I also waiting for you. Sometimes you waiting for me too. So it should be the ideal cut. Should be from 6, right? Okay. Yep. Yep. And like I discussed to you, what there will be 2 hours, 2 hour midterm test from 6 to 8. Did I tell you about this?
I'm not
Okay.
sure.
Okay, so be ready for that. There will be two hours midterm test. Okay, it start from 6 and then it finish by 8. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, teacher.
You're welcome. Okay. Any other concerns? Okay, if you don't have any concern, just please have a small break and then return back by 7:10, and then I will introduce you to the last few point, and then we can have a small quiz to understand how much you understand about the modules. Okay. Yep. Okay, so enjoy your break and then see you soon. Okay, see you soon. Take a good rest.